strength of mine when I was growing up and when I was in college. But I've learned how to write, so it can be learned. It is also true. Are we on? All right. It's also true. Listen, you can learn how to read faster. Did you know that? There's bad habits to reading. And I didn't know this. Nobody told me this, but I used to do like a lot of these. So, listen, when you get to university, some of you have already been there, but when you get there, they're going to give you a ton of reading in English. And the problem is you don't have time to read slow. Does that make sense? You got to read fast, or you won't keep up. So, let's learn some tricks to reading fast, okay? And maybe a better way to look at this is, what are bad habits? What are things that slow you down when you're reading? And now listen, of course, you have to know the vocabulary. You have to know enough of the vocabulary or it's just painful, right? You're reading something, if you don't know the words, then it slows you down because you don't understand what you're reading. That's one issue, okay? And of course, the only way to fix that is to continue to read and build your vocabulary. You may have to slow down a little bit. And listen, if you can't understand, I'd say 70 to 80% of what you're reading, it means you're reading something that's too difficult for you. So you need to slow down and go find something that's a little bit easier to read. Otherwise, you're torturing yourself, okay? And you need to start at an appropriate level. So if you can't understand 7 out of 10 words, or let's put it the other way. If you can't understand 70 to 80%, okay? So you should be understanding 7 to 8 out of 10 words you read. If you can't, then you need to go down a little bit level in the kind of reading you're doing. That's the first thing. All right, but let's just assume you're reading at the level you should be reading. What not to do? Does anybody do this? When you read to yourself, do you use your finger? No. Or a pencil? Like follow with a pencil? Or, so I used to use a piece of paper, and I'd go one line.
No, just
okay, listen. Stop! Don't do it! Hey, you're killing yourself. Do you get it? You get the idea? Don't do it.
Because, teacher.
Well, listen. Get glasses. Listen. You're killing yourself on your speed if you're using your finger. And I know because I used to do it. I was reading like really slow. Like it would take me a minute to read a page. Okay. So that's a bad habit. And down here you'll understand why that slows you down. So if you're doing it, try to get away from it. Try to stop using your finger as you read. Okay? Here's the main reason why is your eyes. Once you get used to English print, all right, your eyes can move much faster than your finger. So let your eyes be your speed, not your finger, right? Don't read out loud. Some people, when they read, they actually, if you sit next to them, you can hear them reading. Oh, boy. Listen, first of all, nobody else wants to hear your book. But secondly, it slows you down to actually read out loud because you're listening to yourself read. Here's the other thing, and it's kind of the same thing as this one. Don't move your lips. I do this. Some people actually read out loud, but some people... You ever watch someone watch TV?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I watch movies with my wife, I'll just kind of look, I'll look over at her. She'll be going... It's just funny. Don't do that when you read either. So when you're reading, don't move anything. Don't move your lips. Here's what's happening. You're actually forming the words with your mouth, and it takes time to create each word. Listen, you can decrease your speed substantially by trying to pronounce the words as you're reading. So if you do that, put your hand over your mouth or something, and just try to make sure, look at a mirror. Try to read in the mirror and see what you do. Or record yourself. Okay? Just don't move your lips. Don't say anything out loud. And don't point at the text. Okay? You with me? You okay?
Yes.
Skim. Important words only. you know what I mean, I'm sorry, skip, I jumped down here. Skip unimportant words. Listen, you've got to get good at learning what important words are in a sentence. Skip prepositions like in, on, of, at, before. All those little prepositions, they're not important. We just use them in writing, okay, to help us connect things. Don't, when you're reading, yeah. And then articles, a, and, the, okay? Even little conjunctions, I know they carry meaning, but the real content words are your nouns, your verbs, and your adjectives, okay? But primarily your subject, your verb, and then the object. And you'd be surprised, if I wrote something up here and just included those things and threw everything else out, you probably would be able to understand the main idea. So imagine that. Imagine if you could just get your brain to stop reading every single word. And you could just read the most important words. And it's a skill. It takes time to practice doing that. But again, that's something you want to work on. Try to skip over unimportant stuff, like articles and prepositions when you read. Okay? The next thing is learn to skim for important information. Let me ask you a question. Let's say we have our book in front of us and we're at the beginning of the chapter. What's the first thing your eyes go to? I'm curious.
The first sentence.
Or, the first sentence, true. But what's usually above the first sentence in a chapter?
Topic.
Maybe the title or the topic of the chapter, right? So, of course, look at that first. Look at the title of the chapter. It could have the name of a character, some big event in the chapter. Instantly, then, it helps your brain start to think in the right direction. Also, go to the first sentence in the paragraph. Sometimes, if it's a long story, I'll actually skip to the end and look at the conclusion. Depends on what I'm reading. If it's a novel and I'm just enjoying it, well, then I'll read the whole thing. But if it's something for school that's academic, and I just need the important information out of it, I'm going to skim. I'm going to skim it first. All right? Go to the table of contents at the beginning. Right? It tells you what's in each chapter. Read that first. Now you know what's in every single chapter, probably. Okay? And then go to the chapter and look at the heading on the chapter, which is usually in the table of contents anyway. But then, as you're skimming through, look at the first and last sentence in each paragraph. Look at the first paragraph, okay? And capture, it'll probably give you some background or some important initial information. And then hit the first, I'm not saying don't read the whole thing, but I'm saying initially, do that first to capture the main idea. Then it will help you as you're reading in more detail. Does that make sense? So anyway, this really works well too if you're reading like a short article and you just need to get the main points. Maybe you're trying to get some information for an essay you're writing. You don't need to read the other guy's whole essay. Read their conclusion. Read their introduction. Find the thesis statement. Read their main points, the first sentence in each paragraph. And usually you can get what you need without even reading that essay. Okay? And then finally, practice speed reading drills. Do you guys know how to do speed reading drills? Here, I'm going to explain it just for the video here, and then we're going to do a couple. Okay? We'll do it once, just to practice.
Like 3 words similar, different spelling.
No.
What's that?
Speed reading. Ooh, you're going to find out. Okay? We'll do it. But let me explain it first. All you do is you get out your book. Okay? And I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. You can do it for however long you want. 1 minute, 2 minutes. We'll do 1 minute intervals. But basically, you read as fast as you can for 1 minute. Okay? And you mark it. And you see how many pages you covered. Or how many paragraphs. Okay? And that'll give you a guess at how quickly you're reading. And then all you do is, I restart it. Okay? And then you keep going, but you try to beat the number of pages in 1 minute. You read a little bit faster and try to add an extra page. Okay? The trick, and again, this really isn't about understanding everything perfectly. It's about practicing these things. As you read, make sure you're not doing the bad habits. And also just force your eyes to try to read the most important information. and just see if you can get in the habit of reading a little bit quicker. Okay? You can turn that off.